Hi dear viewers, we've got a fantastic poet in the house today in the name of Nomadic Libaax, and he's joining us for the very first time on English literature to talk about his poetry and quite a lot of other literary stuff that he has got doing. So thank you so much, Libaax, for having us on the show today. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's both an honor and a pleasure to be on your platform. I've done some research and seen you have a plethora of great literary writers on here, and it's a pleasure.
That's great, and that makes me blush. So thank you too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so Liba, tell us, when was the first time you realized you're going to be a poet? I've seen quite a lot of your works on Instagram, on your website, and quite a lot of other places. And I'm quite, intrigued to ask you what inspired you to be a poet.
Okay, so a little of the backstory is I'll give the origin of the artist name that Nomadic Libaax that I go by. So
Okay.
a nomad is someone who wanders from place to place, and Libaax means lion in Somali. And the reason why I even chose that name, it goes into why I even started poetry. There's a duality to my identity being a British Somali,
Mm,
seeing an ever changing perspective to who I am because every day we change, right? Every day we form into a new version of ourselves. So at the point I decided to take poetry seriously, it was like, okay, how can I move forward with a brand that represents who I am? So I chose that name to amplify that. And so Libah is Somali and nomad is in English. Me being a British Somali, having one word in English and
oh,
one word in Somali represents you can be from two places at the same time. And I feel the moment that I knew, going back to your question, the moment that I knew I wanted to take poetry serious, I've been doing rap, like rhythm assisted poetry. That's what rap stands for me, rhythm
mm,
and or assisted poetry. I've
yeah.
been doing that for a while, like freestyling for let's say near enough over a decade. And so I took poetry more serious as a medium to convey my perspective, the way I see things. Like you can have music, but music has instrumentation. So you have some type of like backing you, literally backing you up what you're saying. So
Yeah.
when you take the instrumental away and you just have the written word and the spoken word, it's like there's nothing but what you're saying. So people have to literally take it in, but it's more for yourself at the beginning. So for me, the reason is just to try and speak from a place of authenticity. You have to actually process things. And I feel like poetry is a great medium in a way to process the different parts of yourself. It's a way to check in with the thoughts that you had yesterday, yes, the week, yes, the month, whenever it may have been.
Mm.
That's for me personally.
That's great. I so much love, the stand and the introduction to your poetry. They sound very amazing and quite, intriguing to me. Thanks for mentioning this and talking a bit about it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for asking.
Iba, I also see that you have a poem titled "Where Do We Grow From Here?" And
Yeah.
while I read the poem, "Where Do We Go From Here?" It's quite metaphorical, it's quite pulling, didactic, and also poetic in my own description. And I'm just curious to ask you, could you tell us what inspired the making of "Where Do We Grow From Here?"
I feel like with that poem, it all starts with questions. So it
Hmm.
goes back to my writing process. A lot of my writing process stems from questions, questions that I ask myself
Hmm.
to form a dialogue of thoughts, of ever changing positions of seeing things. So
Yeah,
in this dialogue and in this discussion of perspective, a question that we get asked all the time in life is where do we go from here? But in
absolutely.
essence, what the person is really trying to ask is where do we grow from here?
Hmm.
How can we move forward? How can we build from the position that we're in? So I titled it "Where Do We Grow From Here?" because in this short amount of time that we each individuals given X amount of time, whichever moment that our book is finished, our time is done.
Hmm.
There's a second part to me personally. This is how I see it. That there's a second part, and that part is a part of an eternal quest. And in an eternal quest, one marker is death. Yes, yes, yes. So where do we grow from here when we disappear? That's in essence what it's trying to convey. Like, so it's like within that dialogue of perspective, you can see that the measurement of time is accumulated
Yeah,
by actions and intentions.
absolutely.
Actions and intentions. Sincerity is how you measure it. Attention. Actions are judged by the outcome. So that's the dialogue that I had in that piece to vocalize. Not where do we go from here? Where do we grow from here?
Oh, wow. I love the sound of this. This is very great. And even knowing that it was birthed through the questions you have from within you. And I think it got me remembering my own side of poetry because I love asking questions myself. Just love to
Mm,
sit in there and think far beyond and start asking questions about some certain things, questions about this, questions about that. I'm quite excited to hear that from you as well. That's a great
thank,
point. Thanks for mentioning this.
thank you, thank you. I really do appreciate it, your sentiment and everything.
Absolutely. I also want to ask you, Liba, in your own term, how can you define poetry? I know that we all have different definitions of poetry. As a poet, you ask one person, they will give a different definition. Ask someone else, they have something else they would consider poetry as. I'm just curious to know your own term. How can you define poetry? What does poetry means to you?
For me, poetry means a pure form of expression.
Wow.
And that can be in any type of way that you want to convey your message or your thoughts. Even just, it helps with confidence building. Poetry is a conduit. Poetry is community. Poetry is common unity. It is,
Mm,
you know, it can be a plethora of things. It can be a vast amount of different things.
mm.
But simplified to me, it is a pure form of expression.
I love that. I love that definition. I had to write it down. So I wouldn't forget some other time. Poetry is a pure form of expression by
Uh-huh.
Libaax, Nomadic. I love that. I love that.
Libaax, nomadic Libaax.
Libaax, all right.
There we go. Yeah. People have like the X is a hand, Somali. Somali, the language is written in English characters, but it's
Mm.
phonetically pronounced.
Oh,
Yeah. So
wow.
CA would be ah.
Ah,
XA would be ha.
oh,
That's the
wow.
only really big different ones. Yeah. So
Very
that's why
different.
I said, yeah.
That's great. And I love your definition of poetry, actually. I love you considering it as a pure form of expression. In my own term, I always love to call poetry the language of the heart. I've had this definition within me for a very long time.
Mm.
Yeah, I love
I
to
like that
consider.
one.
Yeah. When someone asks me, Peter, what is poetry to you? I say, poetry is a language of the heart because I write from my heart, and most of the thing I write comes from within. So I love to
Mm.
consider it these words that you've just written, that you've just read, that you've just seen written in a book format is a language of the heart of the poet. So I love to consider poetry as a language of the heart. And I love that too. For it's a pure form of expression. That's great. That's really
Mm.
great. Now, I also want to ask you, Liba, could you tell us about your poem titled Gone with the Wind? That poem too was quite amazing when I read it. And the title itself is quite, it aroused curiosity. I said, oh, wow, what is really Gone with the Wind? I want to ask you what
Mm.
inspired you to write Gone with the Wind.
Sometimes we have thoughts, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes we have feelings.
absolutely.
And sometimes thoughts and feelings can either be appealing, revealing, or deceiving. So
Absolutely.
the way that we express and feel things is fleeting. It comes and it goes.
Yeah.
It comes and it goes. So in essence, what this poem is talking about and conveying is the different emotions and different feelings that we have in the temporary nature of it all.
Hmm.
Anything and everything can be simply gone with the wind.
Wow. Wow. Wow, that's great. This sounded a bit philosophical to me. And the fact that you mentioned these things are quite didactic. They sound like a proverb. Yeah, love to consider that word. Proverb, yeah, and quite, it's one that you read and you think and say, wow, that's great. That's quite amazing. I love that. Now, I also see
Thank
that you have another poem titled Soul, Mind, Body. and it touched on the theme of the human condition in a didactic and poetic manner. I'm also curious, Liba, how do you come about writing soul, mind, and body?
That poem is actually titled "The Soul is Greater Than the Mind, which is
Mm.
greater than the body." So it's actually
Oh.
titled with the sign greater
Oh, the
than.
greater than sign. Yeah,
Yeah. So the reason for that poem, to me, it is a discussion with an idea. So the idea that, again, everything, the themes that I write about may seem recurring, but what I try to do is give ever-changing perspectives.
mm,
So I try to give opposing opinions, maybe a positive, maybe a negative,
yeah,
to emphasize the point. And so this one literally talks about the ways in which there's a hierarchy of self. There's different
absolutely,
parts of yourself. So the
absolutely.
highest form of self is your soul. The
Mm,
second highest form is your mind. And then the third form is your body. So these
mm,
all are interchangeably interlinked. They come together to make one you. And so this discussion with an idea, the idea that everything that we do and everything that we are
yeah,
is is more than what meets the eye. Is more than what we can perceive. Is more than what we can see. Is more than what we can feel.
I
That
love that.
there's something greater than us. Creator, creation, limitless, limited.
Mm,
Understand the synonym, and then you get the analogy. So, if language is a way to convey,
mm,
what is the message? And in essence, what am I trying to say is that the different parts of you are more than you'll ever know because each person is unique. There will never be anyone like you, and there never has been anyone like you. And with that is exponential potential. You have to understand that each person is a cosmos within a universe within themselves.
yeah.
So understanding the different layers of self allows you to learn how to tap in to something greater to then align.
That's great. I love the fact that you mentioned these themes because they stylishly resonate with my kind of writing as well. I've had this discussion many times about to kind of lay balance between soul, body, mind, or like spirit, stuff like that. And these are three components that makes the human. We have the soul, just like you said, the mind and the body. They are the component of the human entity. So one is greater than another and one is greater than another. One succumb to the will of another. One controls another. These are things that I love to think about and I love to convey most time. And when I heard you mention it, I was like, oh wow, that's quite that's quite beautiful. I'm hearing this perception from someone else, from a similar poet. That's very great. I love the fact that you mentioned this. It kind of sounds
And
like
also, I
a
like to say, I read
spiritual
your poem that
title.
you submitted. It was an amazing piece. The piece that you submitted for the series, People That Are Poets.
Oh,
Absolutely amazing.
oh, I've even
Absolutely amazing.
forgotten the title of the poem.
I am poet.
Oh, I am a poet. I forgot. That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. I love the fact that you mentioned all of these things. They're very great. Now, Libas, would you like to recite some of your poem, maybe two or three? That would be great.
You know what? Yes, I will. I have a book right here.
Okay.
I'll recite a poem for you.
Okay.
This one is called In All of It. Let me just find it real quickly.
No problem.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a piece that it's very self-explanatory.
Mm.
So once you hear it, you will understand. It goes, in pain, we find peace. And in pleasure, we find release.
Wow.
With hard times come ease. Same words on repeat. In pain, we find peace. And in pleasure, we find release. With hard times come ease. same words and repeat. So there is no need to be passive. When the trail paves its own atlas, a map to the path attracted, a balance for the fraction that broke parts into fragments as each action holds a reaction.
Wow.
For within my mind is a place, and within my heart is a pain that flows through my veins to course its own way. And of course, it lingers as it stays, circumventing the navigation my brain tries to take as receptors overstimulate.
Wow.
Simply said, the things that weigh on my heart play heavy on my head. Is there enough time to make more of this thing called life? Is there a chance I can fulfill my why to give in ways that give meaning to life? For in pain, we find peace, and in pleasure, we find release.
I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. I so much love that. I love the solemnity. I love the emotion conveyed alongside the poem. And I love the lyrics. They're quite great and they're very easy to understand. Words are coming in and it's flowing directly to the heart. In pain, we find peace. And in pleasure, we find release. I love that. And I wouldn't mind if you would maybe have one more or two more to offer us, or that's all you got for us.
Yeah, of course I have more. Don't worry. I've got many a book that I like to write in. I like writing physically as well as typing online because it creates different experiences, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
This one is called So Many Words.
So many
For
words.
there is so many words, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many words, but so little to say. So many routes, but which one to take when every way leads away? It becomes a feeling felt out of place, a face that tried to be saved, a name lost in yesterday, a mind gone astray, a reason to pray, a reason to stay, to pre-pass the gate, masked away, master keys for a masquerade, turn into a game of charades from the lessons never gained, but the weight still weighed. In a place filled with pain, a page that never saved, a plague that raged for days, in a maze that never changed, in a state of disarray, but still, so many words, but so little to say.
Wow. That's great. I'm intrigued with these words and this fantastic poetic recitation. They're quite great. And I've seen a video of this before. So many words. I watched it in time past before
Yeah.
now, and I was like, that's great. So I'm more familiar with this
Yeah.
before now.
Mm. I have one more poem if you would like.
Yeah, please give us one more. That'll be great. We have
This is
enough
an
time.
exclusive one.
Okay.
I haven't shared, and I hope you can follow along. It is called The Wave of What Was. The Wave of What Was.
Okay.
There are known knowns, unknown knowns, and unknown unknowns.
Wow.
Each have their own place within their own homes. Some are close but distant. And in the distance, the pace defines the leg of a race where the earth starts to shake. That's when souls quake to alleviate before they raise. Like when temperatures rise higher than the levels of the tides of waves that breed new dawns from the light refracted on the surface of each drop of water, reflecting oceans of emotions, seas of sorrows, and rivers of joy. Moments. Moments make mirrors of matter to echo within the chambers of life, lighting embers of hope, a kindle and a means for more. Words. Words are a medium, aka a tool. The voice is an instrument which is used to emphasize emotion, creating connections.
Wow.
The physical form is a conduit to convey intentions, and intentions are thoughts
Wow.
affirmed in their sincerity. Perspective. Perspective is a funny thing.
Wow.
Changing depending how you see things, changing just like the days, fading into the memory of when, but one thing remains constant and true.
Mm.
Life starts with breath and ends with breath.
Absolutely.
Each moment adds to the breadth of the mark of each test lived in concurrent success.
Wow. Wow. That's some heavy words there. The one that you read, you'll be like, you have to digest them. Those are
Yeah.
great. That's lovely. I love that. They're very great and deep and philosophical. I think you have a tone that is quite philosophical, a bit of
Thank
philosophy,
you.
one that you think, and they come from the ocean of wisdom, stuff like that. So thank you so much
Mm.
for sharing the wave of what works. I love it, and it's quite great.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for discussing about anything. If like, it's both always a pleasure. Pardon me. It's always a pleasure to share, express, and learn because this is a mutual learning
Yeah,
experience. You know.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Every interview is a virtual learning experience, even for me as the host. Now, Libas, I haven't seen some of your poems, I haven't read this fantastic work. I think a book from you would be great. What do you think about that? Do you have plans on publishing a book anytime soon?
Well, I'm actually working on a project right now. So I run a platform called Poetically Perplexed, where
Okay.
I showcase, originally it was to showcase my own work in the written form, publishing it online. And then on the platform, I also pivoted where I created a series called People That Are Poets. So in this series, I showcase poets from all over the world, such as yourself, who will be featured on the platform, such as Witty Pen, who I met via Poetic Unities Live, and different poets from London, America, Nigeria. It's an international project now. So I'm
Yeah.
looking to collaborate with different people all over the world and showcase their poetry. And at the end of the series, I'm looking to publish a book, an anthology of this series in the written format with a bit more in-depth from each episode,
That's
giving
great.
each poet an opportunity to also curate a poem for the book.
That's great.
Now, when it comes to my own written poetry, I'm working on something, and hopefully, sometime soon, I'll be publishing a book showcasing because I've written a lot of poems and I've
Hmm.
written a lot of stuff. So I will definitely, I've showcased my work online in video format, in written format, and I've created different series. Like, if you actually check out my artist portfolio, I have a series called Poetry in Motion, which is like a
Hmm.
video series with like
Yeah.
lyrics and images. And then I have another freestyle series where I just freestyle the poetry called Poetic Free Flow. People
Yeah.
that are poets, food for thought. Like, I try to basically, we live in a technologically advanced era, right?
Absolutely.
So understanding how to, in this creative space that we're all a part of, there's something called creating digital assets.
Hmm.
This, at the end of this recording, you will have a digital asset of this recording. Any
Absolutely.
work that you submit and publish online is a digital asset. So
Absolutely.
understanding how to accumulate these digital assets into a portfolio, which then can be showcased, which then could be used as leverage to gain opportunities and partnerships and sponsorships and build in an organic way. So that's what I'm currently working on.
Absolutely.
And a book would be something to say that I've done, to say that I've written a book, not just in the word of pride, but more to say
Hmm.
as a personal a marker. For me, there's
Hmm.
different markers on each path because we're all on our own individual paths. So a book
Absolutely.
would be a great marker as an accomplishment to say, yeah, I'm a published poet, but more than that, I care about providing opportunities. So if I can accumulate and provide opportunities for others, so if my book could then lead for opportunities, which I then gain and then forward other people for, because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to help people. So we all have our own unique way to help people. That's all
Absolutely.
life really is.
Yeah. That's great. I so much love this. And I've left a link in the description part of this interview where you can find out more of Nomad, Libas work and quite a lot of other things linked to his website, to his Instagram page and other places. And be sure to please give him a follow and check out some of his works. I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it like I do. So thank you so
Thank
much, Liba, for coming on the show today. It's fantastic speaking to you. And I'm quite amazing to have learned something about digital asset from your conversation. This is a digital asset. Everything I've
Yeah.
got so far on English literature could come to me as
Mm.
a digital asset. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. And you're doing very, very well in this space, honestly. This networking with different people, providing a space for them is a USP, unique selling point in your own niche,
Yeah,
because you're providing a service for others that is not really offered. You're providing the space, you're providing a platform.
absolutely.
And there is a lot of, forget just what you can generate fiscally or financially, it's a human exchange. This is an
Absolutely.
immeasurable human exchange. When you provide people with opportunities and chances, you're creating a positive impact which supersedes and lasts past anything.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. I
So keep
love
up the
that.
amazing work, man. I'm really proud of you, my brother.
Yeah, thank you
And
so much.
look forward to seeing your episode on People That Are Poets on Poetically Perplexed come out very soon.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah, man. I look forward to publishing.
Yeah,
Very much.
thank you so much, Libax. I appreciate that. I'm
Thank you
gonna
very
stop.
much. Thank you for having me. It's been both an honor and a pleasure. I'm sending you much peace and much blessings. And to everyone watching this,
Yeah.
you are all the possibilities you can imagine yet to be lived. And if you really understand who you are, and even if you don't know, give it a go.
Hmm.
Give writing a go, put pen to paper and write down your thoughts. And then
Absolutely.
guess what? You're being a friend of you today to the you of yesterday and tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh wow, those are great words. That's
Thank you.
thank you so much, Liba. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you, man.